Hi, my name is Hannah Sloan. I'm the Teen Services Coordinator here at the Poplar Creek Public Library.
And I am Tom Burnham, the Teen Services Assistant here at Poplar Creek Public Library.
And we're here to talk to you today about some wonderful books that we've been reading lately. And do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I can start.
You're going to start? Okay.
Yeah. So the first book I have is a science fiction one. It just came out a few months ago called The Last Eight by Laura Pohl. Clover Martinez has always been a survivor, and she is one of the few that survive when aliens come and basically obliterate humanity. She thinks she's the only one left in the world when she hears a radio broadcast saying that there are other survivors at what was once Area 51 in Nevada. She arrives there and she finds 7 other teenagers there. And they are just a group of misfits who just happen to survive the alien invasion. And they call themselves the last teenagers on Earth. Clover is expecting them to fight back, and drive the aliens back from Earth. But all they really want to do is just kind of stay there, stay put. Really, they don't want to fight back at all. Clover explores Area 51, and she finds a spaceship in the basement that is very similar, a smaller version of the ships that have invaded Earth. And then questions began to arise about what humanity really knew about these aliens before they came here. And there is a sequel coming out to this in March of 2020 called The First Seven.
Okay. Now for a little change here. We're going to talk about Internment by Samira Ahmed. This is what I would call a hit you where it hurts book, okay? Rebellions are built on hope. Set 15 minutes into the future here in the United States, 17-year-old Layla Amin and her parents are forced into an internment camp for Muslim American citizens. With the help of newly made friends also trapped within the internment camp, her boyfriend David on the outside, and an unexpected alliance with a guard named Jake, Layla begins a journey to fight for freedom, leading a revolution against the internment camp director and his guards. This book addresses a lot of topics and will be one that people love, people hate, and people love to hate. Get ready for a blunt hit you where it hurts read that will make you really think.
Next book I'm going to talk about is called Losing Brave by Bailey Madison, the actress, and Stephene Miller. It's been a year since Peyton's sister Dylan vanished in a bus station bathroom. Peyton struggles to remember what happened. That day. As school starts up, random things start happening to Peyton that she doesn't ever remember doing or even ordering. First, a cup of coffee comes to school. The next day, her car catches fire and is destroyed. She gets into a fight with Joshua, who has gotten another girl, Misty, pregnant, but he won't help cover some of the cost for the baby's funeral because the baby died shortly after it was born. She gets in trouble for fighting Joshua, and as she's sitting in the holding cell at the police station, she's doing her homework on Edgar Allan Poe, and she decides that now she wants to be called Poe. And a few, her friends kind of take to it, and even a few of her teachers. It takes her parents a little longer to get used to the new name. A few days later, Poe doesn't go straight home from school. She just kind of goes to the beach and just wants to, chill, just hang out, not worry about anything, and everybody's freaking out about where she is. Cole tracks her down and takes her home, and the cops are there, and she's like, oh, great, my parents called the cops on me, but that's not what happened. The cops were there for a different reason. A girl from a town called Lincoln, which is nearby, went missing, who was basically the same age, the same color, and the same features as Poe. And they also revealed that there was another girl that went missing 6 months ago with basically the similar features. As word spreads throughout the town about the missing girls, Poe begins her own information or her own investigation because she thinks the cops don't know anything. and she can find out the truth quicker. As she digs deeper into the backgrounds of the two missing girls, she finds out that there's a connection between Joshua and one of those girls. And now she starts to question, could he be the one responsible for them going missing, and maybe what happened to Dylan a year ago?
Okay. Now I kind of want to read that one. The Best Kind of Magic, in the first book in the Windy City Magic series by Crystal Sestari, who is actually going to be coming here to the Poplar Creek Public Library October 12th from 2 to 4 p.m. So if you're interested in coming to our event, yay. The book is Amber Sand is Not a Witch, though her family line are normally the most powerful witches out there, but she can see true love instead. As a matchmaker, after 5 seconds of eye contact, she can envision anyone's soulmate. Amber works at her mother's magic shop after school. She's confident she's seen every kind of happy ending there is, except for her own. So when Charlie Blitzman, the mayor's son and most desired boy in school, comes to her for help finding his father's missing girlfriend, she's saddened to find herself falling for him when every time she looks in his eyes, she sees the girl he is going to end up with, and it's not her. With side characters like her best friend Amani, who can see the future but is suppressing her gift, and Ivy, the evil siren cheerleader who sweet-talks her way through anything and then turns around and bullies Amber at every turn. The story is part mystery, part romance, and is sure to be one that makes you smile.
Next one I'm going to talk about is called The Sacrifice Box by Martin Stewart, and it's basically kind of like Stephen King meets Stranger Things. In the summer of 1982, before 7th grade starts, Sepp, Arkle, Hadley, Lamb, and Mac all become friends. They hang out for the whole summer. They stumble upon this mysterious box in the forest. And to kind of commemorate that summer together, they each put an object of value to them in that box. And they come up with 3 rules. Never come to the box alone, never open it after dark, and never take back your sacrifice. It is now 4 years later, in the summer of 1986, and they've all kind of gone their separate ways, and one of the kids is actually picking on one of the other ones, and they've all drifted apart. And then dead things start coming back to life, and then the sacrifices that they put into a box start appearing to them, and now they must have to come back together, figure out who broke the rules, and figure out how to put all this evil that's been coming out of the box back into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. Romy Silvers, 16 and fan fiction enthusiast, is the only surviving crew member of a spaceship traveling to a new planet on a mission to establish a second home for the humanity amongst the stars. Alone in space, she is the loneliest girl in the universe until she hears about a new ship which has launched from Earth with a single passenger on board, a boy called Jay. Their only communication with each other is via email, and due to this the distance between them, their messages take months to transmit across space, and yet Romy finds herself falling for him. But what can you really know about someone you have never actually spoken to or seen in person? And what is happening on Earth? When the messages from Earth get strange, Jay is the only person she can talk to. Having never known another person besides her parents, she thinks that Jay must be everything he claims in his messages, and that she is not alone anymore. But sometimes there's something worse than being alone. Part mystery, part romance, part suspense make this all a fun and engaging read.
So we go from fun to kind of very realistic. The next book I'm going to talk about is Anger is a Gift by Mark Oshiro, and I actually heard him talk about this book back in October at Anderson's Young Adult Author Book Fair in Naperville. Moss is a 16-year-old gay African-American student who attends the rundown West Oakland High School. He lost his father 6 years ago to police violence when his father was shot. He is surrounded by a loving mother who he has a really good relationship with, and a network of very diverse friends with different genders, orientations, and different family makeup. He also has a budding romance with Javier, a Latino comic book artist. Everything's really bad at the school, and the school puts up metal detectors to kind of deter violence in the city. And when a student in a wheelchair is injured because of the metal detectors, and there's also several other police assaults on the students, Moss and his friends just decide to fight back. They plan and stage a walkout, but the police get wind of the walkout, and they send extra cops to the school. Moss and his friends are trying to get out of the school, and Javier shows up to lead them out of the school. They get out of the school. More cops are even coming, and they're just waiting to beat someone up or to shoot someone, and they start beating up Moss. And Javier puts himself in front of Moss to protect him. Cop pulls out the gun and shoots Javier dead. And Moss now is going to use his anger and hate to fight back against the violence and the police brutality that's plaguing his hometown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go somewhere different again. Let's talk about Dread Nation. It's the first book in the new series called Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. Jane McKee was born 2 days before the dead began to walk the battlefields of Gettysburg, derailing the war between the states and changing America forever. In this new nation's safety for all depends on the work of a few, and the laws like the Native and Negro Re-Education Act require certain children attend combat schools to learn to put down the dead. Jane never wanted to leave home to study to become an attendant, trained in both weaponry and etiquette to protect the well-to-do. Not even being the daughter of a wealthy white Southern woman could save her from society's expectations. Almost finished with her education at Miss Preston's School of Combat in Baltimore, Jane is set on returning to her Kentucky home and doesn't pay much mind to the politics of the eastern cities with their talk of returning America to the glory of its days before the dead rose. But when families around Baltimore County begin going missing, Jane is caught in the middle of a conspiracy, one that finds her in a desperate fight for her life against some powerful enemies, and the restless dead, it would seem, are the least of her problems. Alternative history, zombies, and some kick-butt antics will make you want to have Book 2, but sadly Book 2 won't be out until the winter of 2020.
Oh, that sucks. That's kind of like waiting for a Schusterman book. The next book I want to talk about is called Last of Her Name by Jessica Corey. And according to the author on Goodreads, it's inspired by the Anastasia story, but it is not a direct retelling of it. 16 years ago, rebellion swept through the galaxy, and everybody in the royal family was murdered, all the way down to their youngest daughter, Princess Anya. Stacia doesn't think much about politics. She just spends her days in her father's vineyard with her close friends, Cleo and Pole. One day, a Union ship appears carrying the leader, Director Emmet. He proclaims that Princess Anya is still alive and is in Stacia's village, and they're hiding her. One of the villagers betrays everybody and points, saying that Stacia is Anya, and chaos erupts everywhere. Pole is able to get her onto a ship, and they escape Africa. Once they are off-world, their journey is going to take them throughout space to discover who and what Princess Anya really is and why she was hidden away for 16 years.
Wow. Talk about Romanovs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Alrighty. From sci-fi to just a good old-fashioned romance. Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett. Mystery book aficionado Bertie Lindbergh has an overactive imagination. Raised in isolation and homeschooled by strict grandparents, after her mom died, her solitary world expands when she takes a summer job right before college, working the graveyard shift at a historic Seattle hotel. A few months before getting the job, she had met a meet-cute moment with a cute guy she met at the Moonlight diner. Never knowing his name, they spend one night together in a moment of spontaneity until her brain got the better of the situation and she runs away. But the first day on the job, who should she meet but Daniel Aoki, the hotel's charismatic young van driver, and her one-night stand. He shares the same nocturnal shift and patronizes the waterfront Moonlight diner where she waits for the early morning ferry after work. Reluctant to bring up what happened that one night, Daniel also shares her appetite for intrigue, and he stumbled upon a real-life mystery. A famous reclusive writer, never before seen in public, might be secretly meeting someone at the hotel. To uncover the writer's puzzling identity, the two work together and slowly start opening up to each other. Cute little romance, nice and sweet.
Now we go from cute little romance back to horror. I love my horror. Next book I'm going to talk about is #Murder Trending by Gretchen McNeil. Welcome to the future and Alcatraz 2.0. Everybody can log in and watch the execution of society's most infamous convicted felons via the Postman app. 17-year-old Dee Guerrera has been convicted of her stepsister's murder and is sent to Alcatraz. She wakes up there in a warehouse and she's wearing a Cinderella dress. And then she's also confronted with her would-be executioner. Not wanting to die for a crime she didn't commit, she kills the executioner in self-defense. And she gets a massive following online with the hashtag Cinderella Survivor. She forms a delicate alliance with the other inmates because everybody's not really that trusting of everyone. And they're trying to figure out all the secrets of the island. And as the story goes through, certain things kind of tip Dee off that it's one of those where it's like, wait, why am I here? I didn't do this. And then certain clues kind of lead her to why she was put there. And she suspects that she's there for a specific reason. Okay,
then.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, let's talk about The Brilliant Death. It's the first book in the series by Amy Rose Capetta. For Teodora de Sangro, a mafia don's daughter, family is fate. All her life, Teodora has hidden her magic. She secretly turns her family's enemies into music boxes, mirrors, and other decorative objects. After all, everyone in Vanalia knows that Stregas, wielders of magic, are figures out of fairy tales. Nobody believes they're real. Then the capo, the land's new ruler, sends poisoned letters to the heads of the 5 families that have long controlled Vanalia. 4 lie dead, and Teo's beloved father is gravely ill. To save him, Teo must travel to the capital with her younger brother Luca, kill the capo, and bring home a cure. But when their older brother Benyamo attacks them, everything changes. She now must become a Di Sangro son herself, not merely disguised as a boy, but transformed into one. Enter Cello. Cello is a strega who can switch back and forth between male and female as easy as turning a page in a book. Teo and Cello journey through to the capital, and Teo struggles to master her powers and to keep her growing feelings for Cello locked away as she falls in love with him. Teo realizes how much of life she's missed by hiding her true nature, but she can't forget her mission, and the closer they get to the palace, the more sinister secrets they uncover about what's really going on in their beloved country, and the more determined Teo becomes to save her family at any cost. If you are not good with the switches in he, she, this is going to get very confusing.
Next book I want to talk about is Last Things by Jacqueline West. Anders, Jez, and Patrick formed the band Last Things their freshman year of high school. The first few years they were just kind of playing, they were just doing covers of songs and everything. And during their junior year, Anders, who's the front man of the band, has an encounter with a journalist. And this journalist gave him a special guitar. And all of a sudden, their popularity took off. Songs were just coming out of Anders like if you're writing poetry or something, like words just spill out of you. That's how it was. And for 2 years, 2 years they were like the top band to see in the town. Thea is kind of always at the edge of the crowds whenever Last Things play. She's there, but she's not really seen. And she's keeping an eye on Anders and the band because she knows something's coming for him and for him soon. When Last Things plays its last show, they go out in a blaze of glory, and the next day, Anders can't write a good song to save his life. It's like basically like 2 years, and that's all he got. The band breaks up, but the danger lurking from the demons, as they're called in the story, in the woods is still lurking, and Thea's still trying to protect Anders. And now, since they've given him 2 years worth of prosperity and songs and recognition, now they're coming to collect their payment, which is Anders himself. And this story reminded me quite a bit of the story of Dr. Faustus and his deal with his deal with the devil.
Okay. Let's talk about A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahira Mafi. It's 2002, a year after 9/11. It's an extremely turbulent time politically, but especially so for someone like Shireen, a 16-year-old Muslim girl who's tired of being stereotyped. Shireen is never surprised by how horrible people can be. She's tired of the rude stares, the degrading comments, and even the physical violence. She's endures as a result of her race, her religion, and the hijab she wears every day. So she's built up protective walls and refuses to let anyone close enough to hurt her. Instead, she drowns her frustrations in music and spends her afternoons breakdancing with her brother. But then she meets Ocean James, her lab partner at her new school. He's the first person in forever who really seems to want to get to know Shireen. It terrifies her. They seem to come from two very different worlds, and Shireen has had her guard up for so long that she's not sure she'll ever be able to let it down. Shireen tries to warn Ocean that it would be bad for him if they started to date, but Ocean doesn't care what other people think. But the fear of differences and Islamophobia can be hard to overcome.
Next book is called The Creeping by Alexandra Sirowi. Now, don't let the title fool you. The title and the cover would lend it to that you would think it's a horror novel, but it's not. It's more of a mystery novel than anything else. When they were 6 years old, Stella and Jeannie were playing outside in the woods near Jeannie's house. At one point, Jeannie disappeared, and only Stella survived. Stella was the only one left alive. 11 years later, on the anniversary of the disappearance, a girl resembling Jeannie is found dead. The cops arrest who they believe is responsible for the murder, and they consider the case closed. Stella still thinks that the killer is out there, and the person locked up is innocent. And this leads her to start looking into the history of the town, and she discovers a pattern of missing children and other tragedies like car crashes or a fire, stuff like that. A lot of those have happening over the years. And she keeps on digging for information and is determined to find out if Jeannie's disappearance and the events going on now are the result of someone human or something supernatural that might have been around since the town was founded.
Let's talk about Dry by Neil Shusterman and Jared Shusterman. There's your Shusterman book.
Not the one I was talking about, but...
Okay, so the drought, or the tap out, as everyone calls it, has been going on for a while now. Everyone's lives have become an endless list of don'ts. Don't water the lawn, don't fill up your pool, don't take long showers, until the taps run dry. People stop going to work, which leads to no electricity and so much more. With no TV coverage on the events happening in California and no flights out, people are in real trouble. Suddenly, Alyssa's quiet suburban street spirals into a war zone of desperation. Neighbors and families turned against each other on the hunt for water. And when her parents don't return after looking for water, and her life and the life of her little brother is threatened, Alyssa has to make impossible choices if she's going to survive.
And we go from dry to a historical book about Edgar Allan Poe, which I love Poe, so I love this book. And
so 2 Poes in your book talks today.
yeah, exactly. There were 2 Poes. And the book's set when he's 17 years old. 17-year-old Edgar Allan Poe can't wait to attend university and get away from his foster father, who wants to hinder his artistic creativity. His foster father believes that he's not going to make any life writing stories and poems and all that. One day, his muse shows up, drawn to him through Edgar's words. And she's the physical representation of the Gothic art and the prose that Edgar loves to write about. And he names her Lenore. Yes, the same Lenore that's in that's in the poem. Edgar's stories give her life, and for her to evolve from basically human form into a higher being, she needs him to fully commit to her. Will Poe pursue his writing, which is what makes him the happiest, or is he going to give in to his foster father's wishes and live a life without any artistic expression? And then what's going to happen to Lenore? Will she be able to go to reach a higher
plane of existence?
Thank you. Be a higher being. Thank you. Or is she just going to kind of wither away since his words aren't going to be giving her life?
Wow. Okay, and for our last book talk today, let's talk about The Cruel Prince. It's the first heir in the Folk of Air series by Holly Black. I love Holly Black. She's always fun. Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, despite her mortality. But many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Carden, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King, torturing her over many years at the fairy school. To win a place at the court, she must defy the red-capped general who raised her as his own after murdering her parents, and face the consequences. As Jude becomes more deeply embroiled in palace intrigues and deceptions, she discovers her own capacity for trickery and bloodshed. But as betrayals threaten to drown the courts of Fairy in violence, Jude will need to risk her life in a dangerous alliance to save her sisters and Fairy itself. We want to thank you for listening to our book talks, and if you want to go ahead and find any more books, feel free to come and find us at the library.
Thank you.
All right.